Hi, my name is Jeffro, and this is Digital Dominance, the podcast for service-based small business owners who are ready to seize the recognition and growth that their company deserves. You've worked hard to build a business you're proud of. Now it's time for Digital Domination. Welcome back to Digital Dominance. Now today, I'm excited to dive into the world of cold calling with Anton Zherelyev. Let's see if I got that right. We can call him Anton Z. He's the CEO of REI Call Center. Anton's company helps real estate businesses generate high-quality, direct-to-owner leads through expert cold calling strategies. So if you're a small business owner looking to tap into cold calling to grow your sales pipeline, this episode is for you. We're going to cover everything from how to analyze your market and create a list to even, we'll talk about mastering scripts and boosting your conversion rates. So Anton, thanks for joining us.
Jeffro, that was probably the best introduction that has anybody given for my last name, first of all, and then for the company, man. Super excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, I mean, people got to know you do awesome stuff. So I think let's just start with throwing this out there. Cold calling, when people hear those words, it sends shivers down the spine of many of the listeners in the audience. So I want to hear, why do you think cold calling feels so intimidating?
Yeah, it's like you want to cringe whenever you hear cold calling, or whenever you get a cold call and you're not expecting it. And yeah, man, I think it's definitely just the nature of the beast of coming up to a random stranger on the street and saying, "Hey, my name is Anton. How you doing?" It's pretty much the same thing, but doing that thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times, just like disturbing what it is that they're doing on their daily basis. You just basically barging into their life. Of course, it's going to be uncomfortable. So that's exactly why REI has been built and has been so successful, because it's probably not the best use of your time to bombard thousands of people every single day on the street. That's why you should probably have somebody else do it. And then whoever says, "Yeah, I would love to meet Jeffro," then you step in and you're like, "Oh, hey man, Anton bombarded you the other day. Now my name is Jeffro. Let's go ahead and talk." So I think it's just it's the approach. It's one of the most convenient things to do right now, because our phones are always next to us. Instagram, social, we're always using them. So you can definitely send mailers. You can go knock on somebody's door, maybe even send them an ad, but having your phone ring is probably one of the best ways to reach someone. And I'll be honest with you, after doing this for the last 4.5 years, people have been telling me, "Hey man, you gotta diversify, go into this other types of marketing." And I stuck with what we do best. I stuck with what I know, and it continues to work even today. But with so mmany telemarketing calls that we receive, we generate phenomenal leads for our clients, and we're super proud of that, to be honest with you. And we're going to continue doing that for as long as we can.
Obviously, you're living proof that cold calling is still an effective lead gen strategy. So that's why I thought this would be a helpful episode. Now, I imagine there's lots of ways that you're doing it that are working. There may be other ways people are, making mistakes where that's why it's not working for them. So let's talk about, before you even pick up the phone, you need a solid list. Can you explain how you approach market analysis, and how do you even pull a list for a cold calling campaign?
I love that. That's a great question. Yes. And it's all about what you put in is what you get out. You have to, it's just the nature of how everyday life, the effort and the type of information that you put into your marketing strategy, the type of results you're going to get. We all know this, but unfortunately with cold calling, it was such a quote unquote outlaw. I'm sorry, not outlaw. It was, just go out there and make as many calls as possible, and hopefully you're going to hit something. And we realized quickly that that's probably not the most efficient way of doing it. So that's why we said, let's stop and let's start with what you just mentioned. Let's analyze the market first. So we have to understand, where are we going to call? And even if we're going to generate leads by calling that market, we want to make sure that there's cash buyers in that area who will be doing deals, who will be buying. If you're a realtor, for example, you want to make sure that transactions are being done. If you're an investor, you want to make sure that there's other flippers or investors buying properties in that area. So it's super important, just like you said, to start with market analysis, and that's what we did. We don't offer this as an addition to our service. We actually, to be honest with you, Jeffro, for your listeners, we do it for free. I DM me on Instagram, market analysis, or just market, and I'll connect you with my data team so you can actually analyze your own market and get all those stats that I just mentioned completely free, because I don't want to even take your money unless I can understand that I can deliver for you. And even then, if you want to go ahead and do this on your own, more power to you. But DM me the word market. I would love to have your listeners connect with my team. We'll do a market analysis. And what that looks like is we basically run we analyze zip codes down to molecular level of what type of deals are you looking to get? Are you looking to be a flipper? Are you a realtor? Are you looking to buy for yourself or a wholesaler? There's so many different strategies in real estate, which I'm sure we don't have time to get into right now. But based on your strategy, you want to select the right market. So we start with that. After we have selected the market, the next step is, again, really important because you want to pull a list in that market. And you don't want to just go ahead and pull just a general list. And by the way, the number one list provider that I highly recommend is propstream.com. So you guys can definitely check them out. On our website, REI Call Center, we do have a 7-day free trial link. If your listeners are interested in getting a 7-day free trial of PropStream link, where you can go on there and pull a list. But in the zip codes that we just quote unquote analyze for you. But with PropStream also, it's a super powerful software that we would love to be a partner with. You can actually set motivations of property owners that you're going to go ahead and contact based on their situation. Like you really want to dig deeper before you even pick up the phone. You want to look for divorcees. You want to look for tax delinquencies. You want to look for pre-foreclosures, deaths in the family. You want to look for tired landlords, somebody who owned the property for the last 20 plus years and they just want to kind of retire, just kind of sell one by one. So there's 23 different types of motivations that the team can help you pull a list. And to your listeners, also, if they're interested, they can come on a market analysis call. And if you guys like, I can tell the team to help them pull the list for you, again, for free. I want to add as much value for you as much as possible, especially for your listeners, because I think it's super important for you to understand what it is you're getting. I don't want this to be a pitch, but I want this to be a value add call.
Yeah.
So market analysis, list, and then only then, we go into the next step of skip tracing the list, which is getting the phone numbers and emails. I highly recommend skipbetter.com is what we have been using over the last 4.5 years. And only then you start calling. So it's a whole process, man. It's not just like, hey, let's go ahead and just pick up the phone and start dialing, which I did, to be honest with you, 4 years ago when I didn't know this shit. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah, well, obviously, if you're calling the right people, then you're going to have a much better conversion rate because you already know these people are in the right market or they're interested or they're looking for something. And I think in this particular case, you're talking about real estate, there's a lot of real estate data. You know, there's MLS, there's a lot of different places you can pull this data that really makes this an effective exercise. So for someone who's not in real estate, are there other tools or data points, that would be helpful when compiling a list for their industry?
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually seeing a lot more of this now. We're going into businesses. We're going into, for example, financial institutions. If you own like a mortgage business, you can go in there and pull a list. Primarily, the lists that we pull, the guy that I just talked to on the phone today, the list that we pulled for him is he's actually looking to attract accredited investors, which is $200,000 plus in income. So what we did for him is we pulled a list of property owners nationwide who live in a property above $5 million. So that's kind of going to put you in that accredited investor type of world. So of course, and you're going to have to call them and not all of them, the 10,000 records that we pull for you for a month, not all of them are going to say yes. But if you get 10, 15, 20 qualified leads, then you can definitely do some business there. Right now, we do a lot of work with real estate related businesses, for example, service-based businesses like roofing, solar, HVAC, pool services, landscapers. We do a lot of that for them as well. And we do pull a list based on, again, the area that they want to serve, the age of the property. There's so many different things that you can do with PropStream that would help you identify, just like you do with any sort of marketing, the right demographic, the right type of clientele that you want to be targeting, so that once you do put a professional cold caller on that list, you're going to have a lot better results than just calling unqualified people.
Yeah, which makes sense. And so let's say we've done the market research, we've got our list now, and we're ready to actually talk to these people. There's the script, right? You've got to get it right. And you kind of have to find the balance between being persuasive without sounding too robotic or salesy. How do you approach that?
That's a great question. And the answer is going to be trial and error. Started, it was man. I remember. I'm gonna take you back a little bit why I started REI Call Center, because I was looking for off-market deals myself. I didn't know what to say. There were scripts out there that you can Google and definitely try to use, but a lot of them, they just sound so robotic, and they're not connecting with the seller. So script is a huge part of this whole of this whole process. And if you guys do go out there, if you guys would like to, again, another freebie for your listeners, if you guys like to use our script, we do have a script for realtors. We do have a script for investors. We do have a script for roofing companies, solar companies, HVAC companies. We do have a script for financial institutions. And we have a department called training and development. That's one of our core values in REI Call Center, continuous improvement of company itself. We have training and development department whose only job is to make sure that the cold callers are upskilled every single week. They have a training call. They go through listening the calls, analyzing what's working, what's not, the type of objections that the people are throwing. The objections that people are throwing in right now, especially with the whole, I don't know when you're going to be listening to this, but the whole election thing going on in the United States, that's a huge objective for us right now. Objection that we have never had before when we first started. So now we have to come in and it's like, how do we handle that? So scripts are super important. It's a trial and error for our clients. Again, we have a script that we recommend. We meet with them. We analyze the script on a weekly basis, making sure that the leads that they're getting check all the check boxes. We have a specific client who needs, for example, to get the social security number for their client. And imagine getting a social security number over the phone by a cold call. That's a difficult thing to do.
That's
and
a big ask.
All I'm saying is that it is possible. You can create a script that will build enough rapport, build enough trust. It's also about building trust about what it is that you do. The type of, like Dan Martell always says, the type of questions that you ask will qualify you as an individual or a salesperson. So the type of questions are super important. You don't want to ask just very yes or no type of questions. You want to build that rapport. You want to build that trust. So yes, 100% script is another part of this whole puzzle.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people talk about building rapport on sales calls and stuff, but obviously cold call, it's make or break. So you touched on this a little bit, but what other tips do you have for building rapport? Because I imagine talking about the weather probably isn't what you're suggesting.
Yeah. I love that question. And some of the things that I can tell you right now is that, first of all, you have to always keep control of the conversation. You have to come in from the point of view of, I don't want to call it in a bad way, but authority, making sure that you know what it is you're talking about. You're calling for a specific reason. You're calling for a specific, from a specific client to hopefully solve a specific problem. So whenever you're asking those questions, number one, always keep control. We do break the ice a little bit and say, hey, I noticed here that you were in Miami, Florida. How was the weather? Great. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and jump into some of these questions that I need answers for to make sure that we can understand whether or not we can help you or not. Actually, I kind of stole that from Dan Martell as well. I added it to the team. Before we even pitch, we just want to understand, can we help you or not? If we can help you, we're going to tell you right away. If not, we're going to tell you as quickly as possible that we're not a right fit for you and move on. Does that sound fair? Great. That brings the quote unquote, the guard of the client. And then you go into the questions, and every time they try to take control of the conversation, you really have to always, one of the biggest things about cold calling is the control of the conversation. You cannot let them just go, for example, oh, I moved to this country 10 years ago, then I had 3 kids. Great. That's all sounds great. I just want to make sure your time is valuable. So is mine. Let's go ahead and jump into the questions that I need to ask you. So keep control, make sure you know what you're going to ask, make sure that the questions you're asking are specific enough. But also the most important part, Jeffrey, this is what we teach our cold callers. And this is what I teach pretty much everybody I work with is don't make this about you. Make this about the other person, especially now in this crazy economy when people are going into foreclosure, tax delinquencies, people are not able to buy properties. Like people are in trouble. You don't want to just cold call them and just be like, hey, we can do this for you, ABC. No, Jeffrey, we understand that you might be facing some issues. For example, like I said, we're calling properties that had a death in the family. So the approach is changing. Pretty much monthly, to be honest with you. We have clients who before they just wanted like whoever, anybody and everybody who's interested in selling. Now it's more of like, let's qualify them. Let's make sure they're interested in talking. And also one last thing I will say, a lot of people are not going to be talking to you now like they used to 3 years ago when we first started. Because now they understand, these cold calls are coming in. So they want to, so it's super important from the very beginning. You come in with authority, you come in with confidence, and you come in from the position of helping the other person rather than trying to sign him up for anything that you're selling. And that's really going to help you.
Yeah. And a good resource for understanding that is Pitch Anything by Oren Clough. It's a book. If you haven't read it, I'm sure you've probably come across it, but listeners, go check that out because he talks about framing and this idea of how to maintain authority in these different conversations when people are trying to take it back. And it's kind of a little dance that you do. But let's keep talking about cold calling. So let's say we've done a good job getting our list. We kind of got a decent script. What's a reasonable conversion rate that someone can expect when they're doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll be honest with you, it's really much dependent on the industry, but let's go ahead and talk about real estate. So that's what we know the best for. Mm-hmm. But in real estate, we pull 10,000 records for you per month. Every single month, our clients get 10,000 fresh records that we pull for them. And then we cold call those records. We generate anywhere between 15 to 20 qualified leads per month. Now, that doesn't sound too high. That sounds maybe actually super low. But in cold calling, you definitely want to qualify. You don't want to just say somebody's like, yeah, I'm interested in selling. Call me whenever. Like, so for us, especially if you're going to be doing this business long term, and our clients have been with us for a really, really long time, quality is the most important part of the whole game. So don't expect to, if anybody tells you from a cold calling side that they're going to give you hundreds of leads per month, the quality of those leads, unfortunately, is going to be really, not there. Now when we're talking about roofing clients, when we're talking about more service-based clients, that's an appointment set. So, for example, we want to come in and check out your roof. The conversion rates are a lot better there. We go anywhere between 60 to 70 appointments per month from the 10,000 records. But then again, that's a different type of conversation, right? That's more of a personalized touch. Now you got to go out there and meet the person and make sure that they're actually there. So the conversion rate will all depend on your industry, will all depend on your criteria. We don't have one size fits all for our clients. And fortunately for you, because we don't think that everybody for me, a lead could be one criteria. For you, it could be a pink house with a green door and a yellow roof in this zip code. And so that is a very important part of the whole process, is that we don't want in cold calling to be successful. You want to define your market, you want to define your data, and then you also want to define your criteria. So you don't waste your time or the caller's time. Every call gets qualified by our team to make sure that it is based on what Jeffrey's looking for. And based on that, you're going to get the conversion. But on average, 15 to 20 leads per month from 10,000 records. That's what our clients see.
Okay. And just for the listeners, I mean, it's good to have that expectation, because that's like less than 1%. And so you can do the math and figure out, if I want, 20 leads a month, I got to make this many phone calls. Do I even have that much time in the day to make that many phone calls? Or do I need to hire a team to do it for me, right? And so that's kind of where you should probably be starting and figuring that out. But I will say it might be a good idea to do some of those calls yourself to help refine that script, because you're the expert and you might have better answers to some objections that come up and ways to approach topics that maybe, someone else wouldn't, who's not had your experience. So just wanted to mention that.
I love that. If you ever want to work for REI Call Center, you're hired, man, because that's exactly what you have to understand. It's your time, value of money, of how much time you're going to spend to get that conversion rate of 1%, doing it yourself versus hiring 2-3 professional cold callers. And also, I love what you said about, if you've never done it before, I highly encourage anybody that comes to me and says, hey, I just want to cold call. And if you're looking into investment, I'm going to give you a quick hack that I used when I got started, just so you understand how these whole conversations go. Before you even pull a list, before you even do the market analysis, go on Zillow, look up for sale by owners, and just start calling them. Start having the conversations, and you will understand the type of conversations and calls. These guys are going to be expecting your call, so it's not a cold call, but you will see how the dynamic is so. It's not an easy thing to do, but I would highly suggest you put in those reps, so that once you come and work for somebody with somebody like us, you'll understand how much more difficult it is to call somebody from out of the blue and say, hey, are you looking to sell, after you just had all this craziness going on in your life. So I love that, man. Thank you so much for adding.
Yeah, and you'll have better feedback for the team anyways. So I was curious in terms of like software, how do you track and measure the cold calling efforts to know what your conversion rate is, and to keep track of who you've called, how many times you called them, when you called them, all of that good stuff?
Great question. And the software side of things is super important. We tell our clients that we put it all in a nice looking box for them, because you do have to have a specific dialer. You do have to have PropStream. You do have to have a skip tracing provider. But let's go ahead and talk about the basics. The number one thing that you would need as a cold caller or as a cold calling company, cold caller, is a dialer. We've tried many dialers out there, probably all, if not And one of the ones that we use is called Ready Mode, which is a power dialer that dials up to 11, I think up to 11 lines for you at a time. And as soon as somebody picks up, then you answer. We keep it at a 3 to 5 lines so that, there's not too much people answer at the same time and it drops. It will definitely call back. So the power dialer is super important. The metrics is super important. The power dialer, the Ready Mode power dialer allows us to actually like whisper to the cold caller. So if the quality control team is not listening to the calls, is not coaching, they can jump on the power dialer and actually listen to how somebody's answering the phone, and they can whisper to them and say, hey, can you improve your energy, or can you go ahead and handle this objection this way. So Ready Mode is what we use. It is one of probably the most expensive dialers. So if you're starting, I wouldn't recommend you jump into that one. I would probably recommend you look for something simpler, which is like Mojo dialer. If you want to Google it, and that dialer will give you about 3 lines dialing at the same time. Again, this is something if you want to get this going on yourself. But for us, we use Ready Mode. All the calls are recorded. So you get a recording uploaded into your CRM. We set up a CRM for our clients as well. So if you don't have a CRM presently, we're definitely going to go ahead and set it up for you, so you can go ahead and have all your leads come in, and you and your team can follow up on those leads. Or you can have somebody from our team, like an acquisition closer. If we're talking about real estate, we have acquisition closers that do take the whole process all the way to getting the contract signed. And what I mean by that, Jeffrey, is that they're trained to pitch very low prices, so 70% or below minus the repairs. So, telling somebody you're going to pay them 70% of their property value is not the easiest thing to do, but they're trained to follow up and explain why, and really get the seller to sign on the dotted line. So that's something that we also offer as well. But if you can have somebody on your team follow up, that's what you do. And then so the CRM, the dialer, and then we also talked about the list pulling service. Other than that, man, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Well, I love the fact that you can have somebody listening in and giving you real-time feedback, so you can course correct while you're still on the call, which obviously if you're doing it by yourself, you just can't do that. No way. But that's an awesome feature. I like that. What about, obviously, if you're going through that many calls and only getting such a small number of, qualified leads, that's a lot of rejection, right? So the team, I'm sure you've got to help keep them motivated, feeling consistent and friendly, when they're constantly facing rejection every day, because that's a hard thing.
Absolutely. And I actually just want to quickly tell you from the beginning of REI Call Center. When we started, I'm in Miami, Florida. I'm based in Florida. That's where I do deals myself. And when I started cold calling myself. And then, of course, because of the market that I'm in, a lot of Spanish speakers. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go to Latin America. A lot of cold calling companies do hire from Philippines, which, again, nothing bad about the Philippine cold callers. The problem with them that I found in the past was that they're not super reliable. Because everybody goes to Philippines. So if they get like 10 cents more in their pay, they're going to go ahead and leave you. So it takes a lot of time to train our cold callers before they get their first paycheck, before they get their first payday. They go through a week long of cold calling. And all of our guys, Jeffro, is, drum roll please, are from Egypt, which is, I know, insane. If you would have told me 3.5 years ago that I would have 150 plus agents dialing for me in Egypt, I would have been, first of all, I would have said, where is Egypt? And second of all, that you're crazy insane. I went to Latin America because I thought Spanish was going to be a really important part of this whole thing. The problem is, just like you said, it's insane how much rejection they face. It's just like, no. And no is a nice way of being rejected. People yell at you, stop calling me, get a real job, all the freaking things that you would expect to hear, they hear. And unfortunately, my wife is Colombian. I love Colombia. I'm moving to Colombia next year. But unfortunately, that tenacity was just not there from the Colombian and Latin American side of things. They're great in customer service, which we're moving into now too. But one day I hired a couple of people from Egypt. They just kind of reached out to me. My HR girl was like, hey, Anton, we have a couple of people apply. Jeffrey, 160 people applied from Egypt one day. I don't know how the heck the word got out, but they all applied. And I don't know how much time we have on this, but Egypt is a really interesting country that had that revolution 10 years ago. And companies like Alcatel, Vodafone UK, AT&T, Sprint, they all used to have offices over there. And because of what's going on in the region, a lot of them just packed up and left. So you have a lot of good, trained, very good English-speaking people. And I stand behind my callers, very good English-speaking people that are just phenomenal in terms of the tenacity. I remember the first time I heard one of them on the call. I was doing a lot of QA/QC, and this lady was just like going ridiculously bombarding this cold caller from Egypt, like you la 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 la, all the freaking name cuss words that you can think of. She was yelling at him, and he was just sitting there listening. And then at the end, as soon as she stopped, he was like, "Okay, not a problem. Do you know anybody else that might be interested in selling?" Like, literally, I was like, "That's it." Boom, my mind blown. Like it's a very interesting. I'm going there in January again. It's a very interesting dynamic of how they live. Like it almost looks like they're screaming at each other, they're arguing with each other. But no, this is like normal way of talking in Egypt. So all of my callers are in Egypt. Tenacity is insane. They're super hardworking. And you're right. Just like I said, the weekly huddles that we do, training development huddles, the training week itself, the coaches and quality team members listening to them every single day is super important. You have to make sure. One thing is finding a cold caller. For all your listeners out there, I'm not pitching this for REI Call Center. If you guys are interested, we can definitely help. But if you want to try this on your own, please be my guest, because hiring a cold caller and then training, managing them the day in and day out, making sure they perform, are completely two different things.
Yeah.
Completely different things. So it's super important that your team has somebody like a quality control manager, account manager, training manager who works with your professional caller to kind of like push them every single day and motivate them. So super, super, super important. Love that question.
Awesome. Well, you've given us a ton of background and practical insights into how this can work. You kind of got to be committed to it. You got to do the market research, do your script right. And obviously it's an ongoing improvement and training and, making sure that you're improving every month, every call even, right? Reviewing the calls and getting that feedback. But we are at the end of our time today. So I want to say thanks for being here, Anton. Cold calling is a time-proven strategy. There's a reason it's still around. But obviously, like we talked about, you got to do certain things right. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. So for those of you guys listening, go connect with Anton. If you want help with cold calling, like you said, go follow him on Instagram. Send him a DM and he'll give you those free resources. We'll put some links in the show notes as always. And Anton, I've got one last question for you. What final advice would you give to a small business owner who's looking to start, getting more deals and through cold calling?
I would say don't stop doubting yourself. A lot of people don't think this is a strategy. Just like you said, it's a proven strategy that's been a while for such a long, so many years. It still works. Give it a shot. We don't lock our customers up for any contracts. Give it a shot. Try it on your own. If we can help, it's definitely going to help and grow your business. But it's another tool in your toolbox that you can use to help grow your business. And I would love to, like Jeffrey said, if you're interested, connect with me on IG. I love helping people understand this better and start. I mean, I started this when I had no faith in cold calling. I didn't know what cold calling was, and it just blew up and changed my whole life. And I think it definitely is going to help to grow your business as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being here, Anton. And thanks to all of you guys for listening. If this episode was helpful for you, please leave a review for the show on iTunes or Spotify or whatever app you use to listen. All right, take care, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Digital Dominance Podcast. This show is brought to you by FroBro.com. FroBro is on a mission to rid the world of terrible websites, and we love helping our clients grow their businesses as big as our hair. Right now, FroBro is offering an SEO plus leads bundle where you can get warm leads every month without having to wait for the SEO to ramp up. To learn more, go to FroBroLeads.com.